Good evening. It is November 17th, 2022, and here's what we're looking at today. Just a range. I didn't draw the range, but yeah, it looks like that midline comes into play over here and then over here, but that's about it. So I don't think you really would have been playing that. So in the overnight, we had this trend working down, and we get a break over here. No setup to go short. I think 5 o'clock comes in. Yeah, 5 o'clock comes in right about here anyway. So that's too far away from the EMA. And by that point, I was looking at this as one leg down. So I was anticipating another move down, and that's what happened. So you can see here, we get an overshoot, leads to a break, and we get this first entry, second entry, and I like this setup. Even though we didn't make a new high on our signal bar, which was this bar. I like this setup. It looks at first glance like an overshoot, but if you draw it like this, it is an overshoot, and that makes the second entry more appealing. But maybe that is the proper way to draw the trend line. But if you draw it like this, it's not an overshoot. So depending on how you were looking at it, uh, if you draw it like this, that looks good. I like that there's an overshoot and that I was expecting a second leg down to a new low. But yeah, I like this very bearish signal bar. And then we come down here and we're just in a pretty congested range. So yeah, we come up here, we make this leg up. Technically, first entry failed, second entry short. And we had two legs down to a new low. So you might take that, but I think I would want more evidence to suggest that we're going higher. Especially, this just looks like one leg up, which I mean could support the argument that we'll have a second leg up, but I still would be playing it, looking for shorts, waiting on this channel to break and looking for a failure. So anyway, we come into here and we form this pink range. I don't think you would want to take this because it's a higher high, but it's a very bearish signal bar with room to the EMA. But it looks like we're going sideways at that point. I'd probably have my range drawn at this midline, what turned out to be the midline. And so when it breaks out, maybe you take something to go long, but you don't get any setups. Unless you were looking at this, maybe you look at that, but that doesn't look bullish enough for me to want to take a setup like that. Oh, hold up. Let's make sure. I'm going to make sure this range. That's probably right. Yeah, that's probably right. I just moved it by accident. So anyway, you do, however, get this failed second entry short right here. I don't think you want to take that, but you get this higher low and breakout pullback, so maybe you consider something like that. But you can see that breakout to the high side fails. We get a lower high right here. I don't really like that to go back to the EMA or to test this price level just because of all these dojis. It's just, this isn't bearish enough. If that closed on its low, I'd probably mark it as aggressive because it's a lower high, but it didn't. So we come down here, we break out to the low side again, and then we form this channel up. And here there's no way for you to have known that this was the trend line, so you can't take that even though it looks like a two-legged pullback. And then you get a failure here, but it's too far from the EMA. Then we come up here, and this is when I started to play it like a range. So when you get this lower high right here, I'm not convinced that we're going lower just yet because this move up was pretty strong. But then when you get to failure, I think you can take that. Even though this closed above the EMA, I like the price rejection that's going on right there. And you might consider this lower high, but by then you're going into the lows. So I think you got to sit back. We can draw this. That's probably it. And we got a break, move to a new low, tries to make another leg down, but it fails. So I'd probably look at this as a double bottom, but you don't really get a failure to go long above. All right, now let's check out. Okay, so then we form this larger channel up. And so we find some resistance at the top of this range. You can see no setups really to go long at. We come up here and you get a double test. That's also a lower high. Plenty of room back to the EMA. Very bearish signal bar. I really like entries like that on a day like today where the direction isn't very clear. How much points you got? More than 2 points back to the EMA. So I really like that. And then if you're feeling, maybe we're seeing it like we should be going long, which is completely understandable. You might see this as a failed break lower. That's also a second entry long. You might take that. But we're just chopping sideways, and then we come to the trend channel, and not a very convincing break outside, and we get this very bullish reversal. So that's a failed second entry short. And you can see some people like that enough to get you a scalp easily. I just didn't like that it was going into these highs. But anyway, we form this channel up. We get a break, move to a new high. And then if you have this trend channel, you get a second entry long with a very bullish signal bar off that. That's also a double test. So if you see all that, you have to take that trade. And then you get a failed second entry short right here, but you're going into the highs and it's far from the EMA. And that's where we had a really convincing break, and it tries to go higher a couple times before failing. I'm sure some people played this like a failed break lower, and that's why you see this here, but that's a third entry. I don't think you want to take that. So we make this leg down, you get a break, and you get a second entry short. Only reason I marked this green is because it didn't touch the EMA. But when you get the matching high right here with a lower risk signal bar, I like that. I marked it red. Maybe I should mark it green because there's a few bars stacked up right there. But you might take those. Now that I'm considering it, that's a double test too. So I do think I'll keep that green. You can see we failed break lower. And we come up here, and you actually get a failure right there, but that whole signal bar is above the EMA, so I don't like that. And then we come down here, and then we bounce, and that's it. That's it for today. So that's how I saw it. Hope everyone had a good day. I'll be back tomorrow.